Hello, my fellow readers. Today I'm going to be talking about Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, Volume 6. It feels like it's been forever since I talked about Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, but essentially the events of Volume 6 complete what I believe was Season 2, am I correct there, of Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, the anime. So in this one we have Anne, who has just rescued the little fairy Noah that wasn't little. I mean, he was like regular size, but it was a sad story where like his master had died and he wasn't eating, and it was like his goal to just stay and live in the castle. Anyway, Anne finally got him to eat some sugar, silver sugar, so he was going to extend his life. And then we move quickly into the events of this one, which is really the big story here, where we have something that made an appearance in the earlier volumes, and the story finally like comes together, and we discover that the fairy that Bridget brought with her is actually the red fairy that had caused them trouble earlier, and is actually this kind of rebel fairy who is setting himself up to be the king of the fairies. And that's to some degree, because as this one goes on, and so obviously there are spoilers here, just in case you're not getting it, spoilers. But in this one, he ends up getting Shell's wing and forcing Shell to go with him, and also kidnaps Anne so that Anne will make silver sugar for him, give him strength, and prolong his life. He also steals some of the silver sugar that was, well, the crafted silver sugar that had been made for the whole Noah thing he had stolen. And silver sugar also gives the fairies like more power. And anyway, he's a little bit extreme, but he also reveals some things, including the fact that he and Shell were both from gems that were in the sword of the last fairy king, and that most likely, or as he believes, they are the heirs to the Fairy King, and at least one of them should rule over the other fairies. And so he's been doing it, and I can't remember what his name is. Wait, it says here, Lefal, there we go. Very similar name. Lefal is his real name, so he's not the Red Fairy. And I think he was going under, like, was he Gladys? Something like that when he was with Bridget. Not his true name. His real name is Lefal. It's like Lefal something Lefal, like how Shell's is. And he's been going about his little rebellion in like a very negative way. So he will take fairies and he has them pledge allegiance, but he takes their wing. So he's essentially just enslaving them the same as a human. So even though he's claiming that he's a fairy king and he's doing all this for the fairies, he's treating the fairies the same way that a human would. So he's not necessarily a better leader for them. And this is all uncovered as Anne and Shell are getting to know the fairies that are in his rebellion. It's also kind of tragic because since Lefal has Shell's wing, he's also forcing him to do terrible things, like murder both fairies and humans in order to advance his mission, Lefal's mission, not Shell's, obviously. And it's just all very dark. Like, this is a very dark volume compared to a lot of the other ones. We also know that previously, before they are kidnapped, Lefal had attacked the sugar crafters, and he ends up blinding is not, I mean, it is, but it isn't. But he ends up injuring Orlando, who's one of the crafters that works with Anne. And he doesn't really, like, full blind him, but he blinds one of his eyes, which is pretty bad if you are an artist and doing craft work. So we don't know what's going to happen to Orlando and his skill, although he doesn't necessarily seem that negative about it throughout the volume. It's actually very sweet. Those are like the reprieve sections of this. We see Bridget, who of course has been a troublemaker and an instigator in the past, but in this one we really see her step up and learn to embrace her full personhood, as it were, because one, she decides to tell her father that she wants to break off her engagement that had been decided upon, that wouldn't really make her happy, but she thinks instead that he should adopt her now former fiance and then have him inherit the workshop instead of her, or instead of them doing it through them getting married. And the other cute thing about this is Orlando, who was Bridget's friend, is being nursed really by Bridget, and it seems like there might be a little of a love connection going on between the two of them, you know, so like a childhood friends to maybe something more romance. It's not explicit, at least through this volume, but that looks to be what's happening, and it's really, really cute. It's a nice break from some of the more darker aspects. There is a sense that you, especially as it gets towards the end, like, you know Shale and Anne are going to find their way out of this really dark situation, but it's still very dark in the meanwhile. I don't know, I'm still loving this series. I think it's amazing what is accomplished through here. I like the fairy lore in it. Like, I think that their whole backstory is incredible. I think it brings up a lot of topics of thought and discussion, and it's just enjoyable to me. And I like a lot of the side characters. Sometimes I have to go back and try to refresh myself on who everybody is, but this one, a lot of people made a further appearance. Kat appears in this one, of course, because of the whole bet that was lost in the previous one. So Kat is here working with the silver sugar crafters, and they're still trying to get everything done. Even when Anne is kidnapped, everybody continues their work in order to get it all done, so that when Anne comes back, they are still where they're supposed to be, because they have to get their sculptures all set for the big festival. And so they are still working on that, even though Anne is taken. And so Kat is a big part of that. We do also see Hugh, who comes in at the end to try to help Anne and Shale out, but it's a little too late by that point, but it's fine. He does do his best, so we do see Hugh in this one as well. Pretty much a lot of the main characters come back for this one. There's also a major decision that Anne has to make at the end of this one, because really, I think it's just if she wishes to advance further in her silver sugar crafting, she probably won't be able to stay with the workshop the way that it is. At least that's what I was getting. Like, she wants to be able to advance in her career, and I think Hugh is offering her that opportunity at the end of this, if I remember exactly how the conversation was going. I do have volume 7, so at some point I hope to go on with the story. Also, has anybody heard anything about the anime? I didn't look it up beforehand, but I am hopeful that maybe we'll get another season of the anime. I don't know, I just enjoy this story very much. I think the characters are great. The big conflict that is coming and that is building now, just from conversations that have been being had, is both Shale and Anne are having inner turmoil about whether or not they should stay with one another or what their relationship would mean, because where Shale is willing to devote his life and protect Anne for all of hers, they do have that difference in their lifespan. Anne is human and will die, and Shale will be left behind. So Anne is wondering whether or not she has that right to ask that of him, and also to love him, when she is going to live a lot less time than he is. And I think Shale, to a degree, struggles with that too, because I think he understands that she is human, and so there's part of him who thinks he should allow her the freedom to find someone else to love, but he still wants to be by her side and watch over her even if that, but at the same time doesn't necessarily want to see that because he has feelings for her in a romantic sense. So I think that's going to become part of the compelling narrative as well. So I'm guessing we'll have more adventures coming in the 7th volume, and I'm just still enjoying it. I think it's a great series, and I would still recommend this to anybody, and especially if you love fairy lore and romantasy, I think this is a great light novel to pick up. It's not as heavy as some full novels are, but I think that makes it better. It's like a nice break that still keeps a lot of the good themes and the love stories, but also it's not too intense and heavy that you feel, weighted down So that is it for this video. Until next time, bye.